Hi and welcome to this DCP Way tutorial. In today's tutorial I'm going to show you how to remove a background from an image using GIMP 2.10. Let's quickly open up this folder on my desktop and take a look at the images. I've downloaded these images from Unsplash and Pixabay. I'll put links to those same images in the YouTube description. So we've got this background and we've got this picture of this lady, and we want to remove the background, or we want to cut this person out and place them onto this background, because I think this one looks much better than this sort of background here, right? It's all that blurry, it's not that great, but this one looks so much better. So let's go ahead and do this in GIMP. Let's load up GIMP software. Okay, so let's just minimize this for a second. We'll open up this folder so we can get access to these images, and then we'll just drag and drop the picture of the lady into GIMP. And it might ask you to change the color settings. Just click convert, and then we've got the picture in here. Now there's actually quite a few different ways to remove a background from an image in GIMP. Some are very accurate, some are not so accurate, and I'll put actually a link in the YouTube description showing you a tutorial. It's quite a long tutorial, but I'll show you quite a few different ways to remove backgrounds. But today we're going to use the path tool. So we'll click on the path tool here, and this tool is quite tricky to understand if you've never used the path tool before. So what we'll do is hold down the control key, and we'll move our mouse cursor to a position where we want to start. And I think you want to try and start in a corner like this here, yeah? So you want to left click once. So we just left click and that creates a little dot here. And we're just going to keep left clicking as we go along this image. Now this by no means is going to be a short tutorial. So if you're impatient, then you might want to speed up the YouTube player so that you can see this a bit quicker. But I want to explain this in detail. Now you can see I'm drawing little dots. I'm not like putting big dots spaced quite far away. I'm just using these little dots, and that will give us a better cut out image. It will just be more accurate rather than just you know, creating quite big dots, big gaps. If you create big gaps, then you don't really get the curvature of the person, and that's what you want. So when you get to somewhere like a knee, right, so this is still a bit straight, so we'll go to straight here, and let's say around here. Now what you want to do is draw an imaginary line. So I take this line from here and I draw a line in my head or on the computer screen straight up to this point here, somewhere around here. And then you want to left click and then hold down the left mouse button and drag out to draw the shape of that curve, right, like this, just like this. So you just hold down the left mouse button, you can move it up and down, left and right, and you can see the curve is bending, right? But we want to bend the shape so that it fits the curve of this knee, like this. Now here's a little tip for you. I'm just going to hold down the space bar, and you can use your mouse to move the screen around or move the image around. And you want to take this dot here and you want to move it closer to this one. You want to move it pretty close, and then you want to continue clicking, and we're going to get to a bit more of a curve here, right? So you can imagine we can still click here. This is pretty straight here and here. Just keep going around the image and we kind of get to a curve here. So if we draw a line from here, just draw a straight line all the way across to around about here, we should get a nice rounded edge. So we'll left click again, and then we'll draw out just by dragging and moving the mouse to the position that we want. So let's say roughly around here. That seems to fit pretty well. And then we'll take this dot and drag it closer to this one here. That's quite important. If you don't do that, then your cutout is going to go all funky on you, and you don't really want that. So we'll just continue to draw the dots like this. And like I said, this is not going to be a quick tutorial. If you think you need to move the position, you can just left click on the dot and move its position. And we'll just draw these dots out here. Alright. And I'm super accurate when I do stuff. I don't like to... It's better to do it once and do it well than do it budget and then just have to redo your stuff again afterwards, right? So let's just click here and we'll hold down the space bar again. And if you're not happy with that dot, this dot seems okay, actually it's fine, but you can always remove them, right? So you can always click on an existing dot, you can change its shape, so you can change its angle. Maybe we'll just angle it out a bit more, like here, something like this. I think will be a bit better. Then just click on the original dot and you can continue to draw your dots out like this. Right. So if we hold down the control key, we can zoom out, we can see the dots that we're creating, and what we're creating is a path here. So this is the path. This little tab here represents the path, and then this tab represents the layer. So we're working on the layer to draw out these little tabs. We can hold down our control key and zoom back in. We can see a little bit of a curve here, but it's nothing major, so we can just draw this out with little dots. We can kind of speed this up a little bit. Let's just get these dots going. And sometimes you want to zoom out a little bit, especially when there's like a long part like this, and you could in theory like take this dot here, draw that imaginary line going up to around here, right, and then just left click and drag out that curve. Takes a bit of practice, like around here. I reckon that's pretty accurate. And then we can zoom back in, grab this handle and drag it very close to this one, and then just continue your dots. So where you've got long curves, you can use that technique. It really depends on, you know, how accurate you want to be. So we've got a curve here, so we can draw that line to about here, and then drag out that curve, and then drag this dot down here, bring it close, and then continue your dots. We're going to get to this shoulder here where there's a curve, right? So let's just do this quickly. If you're not happy with the dot, just move it back into position like this, and then we've got this curve here, so we can probably get a little bit closer, say about here, and then we'll draw that line to this position here, or left click, and I'm dragging to the right direction, and I'm dragging up a little bit into the left, and just try and get it matched up quite accurate. Something like this looks good. And if you don't move this dot, see, when you start to click again, it's going to do this, and you don't want that. So press Ctrl Z to undo that. Take this dot, left click it, and drag it closer to this one, and that just seems to make life a lot easier, right? We can click on this one here actually. In fact, let's just undo that, and we can drag this handle down a little bit just to get that curve a little bit better. And then this one we can drag it out a little bit. We'll just continue drawing out our dots. Remember, we're quite close to the image, so we can be very accurate. So when you're not so close is when you know, the picture won't be so good. So we want to cut this out as accurately as possible. The smaller the dots really, the more accurate stuff will be. And we'll just continue to draw out our dots along here. So if you're watching this on YouTube and I'm boring you to death, what you could do is just set it to mute, and then you can set it to double speed on YouTube or triple speed, or just skip forward. Right, that's what YouTube is about. If you know what you're doing already, then I guess you don't need to watch this. But let's drag a line from here. I think we can get a bit closer here, so let's drag a line from here, or an imaginary line. We're going to draw an imaginary line to about here, then left click, and then we can drag out the curve of that neck there, right like this. So that should be good. And then we take this dot, let's undo that. So if you make a mistake, press Ctrl Z, yeah, to undo that last step. So we can take this dot, move it closer to this one, and then continue our line going up here. And we could have used a layer mask. There's quite a few different ways to do this. Like I said, I'll put a link in the YouTube description showing some other ways, but that tutorial I made before was quite long. It showed loads of different techniques in GIMP to remove background, so it's really down to you whether you want to go and watch that. You might learn quite a lot actually out of it, so it might be worth your effort. But for now, we're going to use this path selection. So basically we're trying to get, look, we've done almost half a side, and we're trying to get down all of this side. The inside parts here we'll cut out later. We'll deal with those inside parts later, but we just want to get all the way around, back all the way around to this original dot here. So you can see it's going to take a bit of time, but like all good things in life, it takes a bit of effort, and that effort, let's just zoom in here on this ear. we want to draw a line from here across to here on the other side of the ear, and we should be able to draw that rounded shape out like this. And then we can drag this handle over to here and then continue around here. I'm cutting a little bit inside of the image rather than right on the edge, just a slight inside on, especially around the head where you might get some color variation between the blue and the image itself. I'm not going to worry about the hair too much. I'm just going to cut around it quite roughly, well, not roughly, but do a decent job. But sort of any hair strands like this, I'm not going to bother with. It's just, you can just paint them back in later if you really want to. And sometimes it's worth zooming out a little bit so you can see what's going on. Sometimes when you're quite close, it's a little bit difficult to see exactly what's going on. So this bit is quite easy, right? Because it's, well, hair is normally difficult, to be fair, but this is not too difficult. So up here we could tidy it up a little bit. It's worth just zooming out a little bit. So you've got this hair going, like a strand of hair here. So we're gonna kind of ignore that. And let's just try and drag this one up here. We'll come down here. So it's a lot of left mouse clicking, unfortunately, and all of this effort we put in now should result in a better cutout, and that's what we want. Because if we do something, we might as well just do it right, get it as good as possible. I'm trying to avoid this like blue haze down the side here. Can you see this like purple, this like blue haze here? Trying to avoid a bit of that and try and stay on this darker shade. This hair doesn't need to be like super accurate because, you know, it's not like let's see what's going on here. It comes out here a little bit, right? So let's drag this one here a bit. We'll get closer to his ear. So we'll do the ear a bit more accurately. We can drag a line from here to about here. We can drag out that curve shape. Take this line. Let's move it closer to this one. And then we can come down here on this ear. So remember, when you do something wrong, Control Z to undo it, and you can move back. If you do two things wrong, just press it twice, Control Z twice. I think it's Apple, I think on the Mac it's Command Z or Command Z if you're American. This is an earring here, so we want to get that in. Let's just zoom out and see what's going on here. So we're back onto this side of the neck. So let's just click through to here. And get to this curve. So curves you have to be a bit more careful with. Let's draw a line like here to here. You can draw that curve like this. Take this dot, move it, this dot here, move it closer to this one. And we might just drag this in a little bit here. just zoom out here, see what's going on. Okay, making good progress. Hopefully you haven't fallen asleep yet, and we will get this done. Now obviously in Photoshop you can probably do this a lot quicker, but you know what, there's stuff in GIMP that you can do that you just can't do in Photoshop, and vice versa. Alright, and remember GIMP is for free, so if you have to go through a little bit of pain, then you shouldn't complain. But GIMP 3 is coming out soon, right? Hopefully, and that might be a little bit of a game changer. It might be very interesting to see. I'm going to draw this line out here, and then we can draw that curve. Yeah, I've been reading a little bit about GIMP 3, like what they're doing, and they're going to have non-destructive layers and stuff like this, like you have in Photoshop. So that should be super useful. So I'm not happy with this because we've kind of gone a little bit too far out. So let's Control Z one time. Let's click on this one and we can drag that out a little bit. And then let's zoom in here. We can take this dot. Let's just move it to around here. Okay, let's see where we are here. These ones I want to move them out a little bit. So you can click on each one and just move it out. Just be careful. Let's see. This I'm not happy with, right? Because it kind of is around here. So I'm just going to undo this. If you don't like something, undo it. Alright, just press Control Z until you get to a point. And this one here, really, you want to drag it out more. Drag it out further. And the curve needs to be a bit. Let's undo that. Let's grab this curve. I'm going to curve it out more. It's really around here. This one we can drag it out a bit. And then this one we can move it in here. And that should give us a better line. Down this arm. Alright, should be okay. Let's see. Yeah, we should be fine here. I'm going to try and ease these dots out in this direction a little bit closer to this edge here. We're talking about a few pixels here, right? That we're not accurately clipping, so should be fine. It's like a handful of pixels, but you can kind of edge your dots out in that direction to more towards this edge as you go down. Just don't do it too blatant, because it won't look right. Now we're back kind of on that line here, so it should be fine. It's worth zooming out and checking, right, to see if that looks okay. It should be fine. Come down here. We're almost done this arm, and let's just move this across here. I see a lot of videos on YouTube where people just speed through this, right? And I could have done that in this video, but I don't think you really learn from that. Because when you see mistakes and you need to do corrections and things ain't just quite right, then it's worth seeing that and how those things get resolved, rather than this perfect video that's been created and a lot of the errors or issues get edited out before it's uploaded to YouTube. I don't really like that, because I make mistakes and I want you to see them so that you know how to fix them. I I think that's important. So now we're towards the leg. Let's just go to File, Save As, and let's just save our work as we're going along. So let's call this cutout -01. Save that. Remember, our path is here. You can almost see like the shape of the person that we're cutting out here in the path. You should click on this one as the last one and then continue. Yeah? So whenever you like if you click on the path, for example, if you just click on that picture, I'll click back again. Just make sure you clicked on the last one when you start your new line, whatever you're doing. Yeah, that way it will continue from that line, and then your selection will be correct at the end. So let's draw a line from here to here. You can draw out that curve. Take this dot, move it very, very close to this one, and then you could even draw a line from here to like here. Draw out that curve. Then you can take this dot, move it super close to this one. Take a line from this dot down to probably about here. Drag out that curve. You see how this dot is off on this direction? That's why we're moving it back into position. So when we draw our next line, it will be accurate rather than being a bit random. That took a bit of a learning curve for me, that one. Let me draw out this curve here. Let's grab this and move it here. When you zoomed in a little bit, it's kind of hard to see things, what's going on. So you can see there's a little bit of a curve here on the arm. So let's draw out that curve there. Take this. Let's move that here. This is the hand. So it's a little bit hard to see, but I think it kind of goes like across here, because you can see the finger there, right? So I want to make sure we don't lose a finger. We've got kind of a couple of choices here. Now, what I suggest we do, rather than cutting like all around here and all the way across here and all the way around to this end, we can just, you can do that, right? So you can get all your little dots and go all the way around the bottom here and across the top here. But really, when we move this image to the next picture, so we move it to that other background, we can use the clone tool to take some of the sand from this other picture. So this one's got some like darker color sand. So we can use the clone tool to take some of that darker color sand and we can draw over this part here with that darker color sand. So really what we want to do is get close to this. I mean, we can get pretty close, right? Like around here, and not worry about this sand here because we're going to draw over it anyway. So we can just do like a rough cut around here. You can do this your own way if you want, but I'm just going to rough cut it or put the points here. It will kind of make sense when we move the other image, when we move this to the other picture. So we're going to use parts of that sand in the other picture because these sands are completely different colors. This is really light and the other one's really dark, so you know you just won't match anyway. And we're going to use the clone tool to paint over this part here to make it more realistic that she's sitting in that darker sand rather than sitting in this lighter color sand, because it just won't look right. So we can cheat here a little bit and speed it up a little bit. Because where all the sand is. Now when we get to here, let's say around here, then we have to start cutting out all of this stuff here. Now we have to be a bit more accurate. Sometimes you've got to think a bit smart. You could have spent ages cutting out all of that bottom bit and then just draw all over it anyway, because it wouldn't have looked right. So sometimes you've got to be a bit smart about what you're doing. And then you can save yourself a little bit of time, right? I'm kind of rushing this a little bit, so 1 minute. I think we're almost there. Look, it's just a couple of clicks away. And then that very last click, if we hold down the, actually let's get a bit closer. So hold down the control key and click at the end, and that will join that together. And then we can zoom out, and we've gone around the image. We've still got to cut out this middle bit here, but we can do that after. So what we'll do, let's just save our work, save it, and then we'll create a new layer. So let's create a new layer here, click here, down here in the bottom left. And we're going to make it transparent here, transparent, and click OK. So we've got a new layer. Let's click back on this bottom layer here, press Ctrl C to copy, and then go to the top layer and then press Ctrl V to paste, and then click this anchor icon here, this one. Click it, and then let's just see, we did something wrong there. So let's undo that. Let's press Ctrl Z, just so we've got a blank layer again. Let's go to our what is this called, mask here, or our path. Let's click it. I think actually what we need to do, I'm making a mistake here, right? So if we click on this layer here and we've still got the path selection tool, we need to hit the enter key. Let's see, what are we doing wrong? Let's go to the path, click on it, and then hit the enter. So this is not joint properly then, so let's go back down here. It looks like it's joint. Let's see here, it's joint. So we click on that and hit enter. Okay, we have to click on that little the little dot. So click on one of them and then hit the enter key. Now you can see the marching ants. Now we can copy and paste it across. So if we go to here, we've got our blank layer still. Let's press Ctrl C to copy this, and we should be able to click on this top layer and then press Ctrl V and then anchor it down. Let's see. So we're doing something wrong here, so let's see what we're doing wrong. Let's click on this bottom layer. Let's click on that last dot, hit the enter key. We see the marching ants, right? So we should be able to go to edit and copy, and then click on this top layer, then press Ctrl V to paste and anchor it down. Now we've done it correctly. Now we can hide this layer, and now we can see the cutout. Now we can see the cutout. So it's the spacebar that hides that layer, right? So I was pressing that by accident, I think. So now we can see it all cut out. If we go to our, we can just like click on the move tool, for example, and now we can see the cutout, right? This red line is actually the path being shown. So we can remove the path, and now we can see the cutout is pretty good. It's pretty good, right? So let's just save this, save it, and let's just go back to layers. I'm going to delete this top layer, delete it, just right click, or we can just click here and delete it. Let's just do that one more time because that wasn't very clear. So let's enable this layer. Let's go back to the path and enable it, so we can see the path is there, and we should be able to go back to our path tool. Let's see, we can double click on this path here, right? Double click it and we see the dots appear again, and we've got our path tool selected. Let's just how do we do this? You can move the, hold down the space bar to move the canvas, right? Let's move it towards the center. And what we need to do, we can just click on this dot here, hit the enter key, and the enter key will create the selection first, right? Now that we have that selection, we can press Control C to copy it, copy the selection. Then we'll create a new layer. Let's see. Let's go back to our layers here, create a new layer, and then we want it to be transparent. Click OK. We'll click on that layer, the new one, press Control V to paste, and then anchor it down, and then we can hide it. So we've just done the same thing again, but I want you to do it a bit more clearer. Now we can click on the Move tool. That removes all the little dots because you haven't got the path tool selected. And then you can go to the paths and hide it, and that will get rid of this red line, right? It won't delete it, but it just means that it won't be visible. Okay, so we need to get rid of this inside part. So we can go ahead and create a new path. So let's create a new path. Click OK. So we've got a new path here, and we can click on the path tool, and we can go ahead and cut this out as well. So let's start down here, and we'll just go around the inside. This should be a lot quicker because there's a lot less to do. So let's try and do this a little bit quick. And this shouldn't take too long, right? Can draw a line to around here, to be fair, and just draw out that curve. Grab this, move it closer to here. At the end, remember to hold down the Control key and click. We can hit the Enter key, and we should be able to do Edit, Cut, and that will cut that piece out, right? And then we can click back on our Move tool, and we can go to Select and None. So that's that part cut out, and we need to do the same on the other side. So let's go ahead and create another path tool, or path layer. So we're in paths here, create another layer, click OK, and then we can zoom into this side and hold down the space bar. Actually, let's click on the move to the path tool, and then click. The problem is when you, if this is selected at the moment, yeah, the last thing that you've clicked on here, if you press space bar, it's just turning that layer off and on. So you just really click on the move tool, click on the canvas, then click on the path tool, then you can hold down the space bar and move it. Because if you hold down, if you're pressing the space bar while this layer here is selected, it's turning it off and on, which is a little bit annoying, but it makes sense. It is what it is. It makes sense. Do you know what? I like to start from the bottom for some reason, so let's start from down here. Let's just see what's going on here. Zoom out a little bit, yeah. Okay, what a journey, eh? We should get this done though. So we could have used something like a layer mask to do this job as well. I reckon it would have taken about the same amount of time. Layer masks are a bit tricky. I prefer to, the good thing about the path selection is you can edit every single dot that you draw out afterwards. So if something you don't really like too much, you can easily go back in there and adjust one of the dots. Layer mask, I guess you can do the same as well because you're painting a mask. So you can remove paint and add paint to change that. So it's kind of a similar logic, but path selection is quite accurate. It's a pretty good tool. And it's down to your own preferences. How much quality of end result do you want? That will determine how much effort we put in. Okay. Alright, we're almost done. And when we get towards the end here, hold down the control key, click on that last one, hit the enter key, that creates the selection. Go to edit, cut, that will remove that. Then go to select and none, and then click on the move tool, and then that selection will be removed. And now we're good, right? We've got the picture cut out. If we go back to our layer, we can see that. So here's the original one behind, and here's our cutout. So we did a pretty good cutout. It's good, right? It's clean. So what we can do now is go to File, Save, and then we can import our background, and we can move this image onto there, and we're going to do a few other things to fix the sand at the bottom here. Okay, so let's go ahead and import the background. We're going to create an accurate image. So we're going to go to File, New, and we're going to set the size to 1920 by 1080, so it's HD image size, and we'll leave it at 72 dpi. Pretty much all of these settings you can leave as default, and the background color we can just leave it as transparent, it's fine. And we'll click OK. So we've got a transparent background here. We'll take our little beach scene, we'll drag that into GIMP, and then that's laid out nicely. But we just want to click on the move tool, click on the image, hold down the shift key, and then use the arrow to move it up. If you let go of the shift key, you can use the down arrow to move it down. So we want to see a bit more sand here. Probably going to put the lady on this side because there's a lot more sand on this side. Let's go to the before we do that, in fact, let's just click on this beach and then create a new layer so it sits above, and we'll make that transparent as well and click OK. So we've got a transparent layer here, and then we can go back to the picture of this lady. We can click on this layer, press Ctrl C. You can actually hide the background, right, if you want to. Press Ctrl C to copy, and then go back to our background image here, and then press Ctrl V to paste, and then anchor it down. And now we've got that picture there. We can move that independently, but we want to use the scale tool. So we can click here, hold down the left mouse button or press Shift and S, click on that. Let's hold down the control key, zoom out, and let's click on this layer for now, and then we can just drag the handle to resize it. Roughly we'll resize it to probably about here somewhere, and we can click on this middle box to move the person. So we're going to move her down to around here, I think, somewhere like here. Like here should be good. In fact, what we'll do is click scale, and what I would like to do, I want to place her on this side. So really what I want to do is flip this image, the background. So I'm going to click on the background, go to this tool here, and then click the flip tool, and then click on the background so it's on this side. Because there's no sort of like text or any image, like it's just visual content, we can flip it quite easily. And then we can go back to the move tool, click on the top layer and drag it onto this side. I think it's better on this side. I think it looks better, right? Now you can clearly see this is not really sort of matching at the bottom here. It just looks a bit of a cutout, right? So we're going to fix that. What we'll do first of all is just go to the rectangle selection. So hold down the left key, mouse key, click here, and we're just going to draw a selection just around this picture here, something like around here, about this much, right? We're going to go over the edge as well a little bit. on this side here. So we draw this little box around here. I believe we go to image and crop to selection, and now we've got a bounding box just around the picture rather than it being all the way over here. We can click on the move tool, go to select and select none, and then this picture is really got a bounding box that's just around it. So if you wanted to resize it again, click here, go to scale, and when we click on the image, the handle's a bit more accurate for the scaling. Yeah, they'll be closer to the picture and it will make more sense. So I think she needs to be a bit smaller. She looks a bit big there. In terms of perspective, I guess closer to the camera the bigger the person will be, so maybe we'll move her closer to the camera. You can imagine someone's taking a photograph from behind her and then she'll be sitting here looking at this sunset. So let's click scale, let's go to file, save as, and save this as let's just call this background dash image dash 01. And there's a few different ways to use the clone tool. We'll just use the easy way. We could clone from one layer to another, but what we'll do is, this is the way that I like to do it. So we'll click on the beach and we're going to right click and duplicate. So we've got two beaches now, right? Two of the same layer. We're going to hide the bottom one. We're going to click on this top layer, right click and duplicate, and then we're going to hide one of these. So really we've got copies, so we can drag this one down. Let's drag this one down one layer. Let's try and drag this one up one. Should be able to drag these. Let's see, actually, I think there's okay, how do we move them again? Oh, we use this tool here. We can move it up a layer, or move this layer up one so they sit together. We've got copies here, so we're going to keep our copies. So if we want to do something else later, maybe change something, we can do that. But we're going to select both of these top two layers, this one, and let's actually undo that. We're going to click on the top one. I think we right click and then merge down here. So we'll click on this top one, right click and then merge down, and now this has created one layer. So the lady and the background are now one flat layer, and that allows us to use the clone tool because we can clone the sand and then draw over here afterwards. Okay, so we just merged this layer together, and now we want to click on the clone tool here. So let's go ahead and click on this clone tool, and for the brush type I'm going to select this second bristle number 2. And I'm going to set the size of the brush to around 78. Maybe we can make it slightly larger. Let's make it around 80. Aspect ratio 0, angle 0, spacing 3, hardness set to 100, and default set to 80. Let's make it a nice round number, 80. And then the rest of it, I'm going to leave it as default settings, like these strokes and the weight and all this other stuff. I'm going to leave it as its defaults. But these are the brush settings that I'm going to set up here. And we're going to zoom in, hold down the space bar. To move this around. We're going to zoom right into the bottom here, quite close. So we want to duplicate, or want to copy from below and then paint over here where it's all white, using this sand color. So let's click on the top layer, make sure it's selected, hold down the control key and then left click once down here somewhere. Try and click quite low below, like around here, and you'll see the paintbrush selection here. And now we can left click and just use that paint, or use the sand from below to paint over some of this hand. And I want her hand to seem like it's kind of buried in the sand a little bit, rather than this kind of white, the white sand that was there before, right? Let's just undo that a little bit. So if you make a mistake, let's just start this again. So I'm going to hold down the control key, click here. Once you've done a little bit and you're happy with it, remember to let go of the mouse button, because if you make a mistake further down, so let go of the mouse button here, do a little bit more, let go of the mouse button, and just do a little bit more, and just let go of the mouse button every so often, because then you can undo those steps. If you do a long piece of it and make a mistake, then you've got to undo everything and start again. So if we do Control Z, we can just undo that part, press Control Y, and we can redo that part. And we're just trying to get rid of a lot of this kind of white here, right, in this dark color, this dark shade here. I don't really want it here. Like here, I'm going to get rid of it. And it may look strange what we're doing, but as we zoom out and we look at the picture, you can kind of see it looks more realistic that she's sitting in this sand rather than sitting in some random sand color. And what you want to do is just randomize. Sand doesn't really, you know, it's not it's not going to be a straight edge, it's going to be a bit random. So sometimes just like be a bit random, that's what you want to be. Sounds strange thing to say, but it will look a bit better. You don't want flat lines, right? Sand doesn't behave that way when you sit in it. It doesn't have flat lines unless you make it like that. This should be a bit more accurate then. So just remember to let go of the mouse button every so often. And then this should look, you see there's a clear white line here. Now you can see this side looks a bit more realistic. She hands in the sand, she's sitting in the sand, rather than having this sort of white line. This white line was the other sand color, right? So something like this I reckon would be pretty good. Get like the sand in here, make it look a bit random, and then it looks a bit more accurate. And you can play around with that. If you don't like this, you can maybe move this here a little bit more. If you zoom out a little bit, sometimes you can make it look a bit more accurate. Now it looks like she's sitting in the sand. I think I overdid it there a little bit. Let's just undo that last bit. I think that's pretty good. Now she looks like she's sitting in the sand. We did that by merging the layers and then using the clone tool to copy the sand from below and then paint over the top here. So if I were to disable this top layer, you can see the difference now, right? That's what it was before. This is what it is now. So it looks a bit more accurate, that her hands and she's sitting in the sand rather than this white sort of line. You could leave that there like that if you wanted to, but I don't think it looks very accurate, whereas this looks a bit more accurate. From my perspective, that's what I think. So let's go ahead and click File, Save. Let's go to File, Export, Export As, and then we can click Show File Types, click Show here, and we can export it as a JPEG file. It's just going to be called Background Image 01 JPEG. Let's click Export, we'll click Replace because I've already exported a sample. Set it to 90%, click Export, go to File, Save, close this picture. Let's make sure we save this one as well, because we can reuse this now on many other pictures. If you want to do a collage of people sitting there on the beach, and this happened to be one person sitting on the beach, you can reuse this image in other software. Just make sure you save everything as a GIMP file, and then save it also as a PNG file, so you can import it into other projects, or just open GIMP, copy and paste it like we did before. Let's close this. Let's close this down, and then we can see the original picture here. Right, with that background, we didn't like, well, personally I didn't like that background. I don't think there's anything really that wrong with it, but I didn't want to use that. Then we've got the background picture here, and then we've got our composition here. And we could have done some color correction, we could have done quite a few other things, but this tutorial wasn't about color correction and changing contrast and stuff like this. It was about removing this image from a background and placing it onto another one, and that's what we've achieved today. And we did a bit of cloning here. We also flipped this image. I think the composition looks better on the right hand side than the left hand side, and again, that's entirely your choice. And then we've got the image sort of cut out here, and it's kind of job done, right? So let's go ahead and close this. Let's close this as well. Hopefully you've learned quite a lot throughout this tutorial. I know it was quite long, but I didn't want to make a short tutorial and then skip past all of the areas or edit them all out, and you got all of a sudden a 5-minute video. You make some mistakes, you don't know how to fix them, and then you just get frustrated and it becomes a problem rather than a task that you can enjoy doing yourself, right? And once you've learned this skill, you can apply it to many other compositions, many other projects that you work on. Okay, that's the end of this DCP web tutorial. Hopefully you found it useful. Don't forget to subscribe so you can access over 750 other free video tutorials. Remember, all my tutorials on my channel are 100% free, and they're on a wide range of subjects. It can be anything from 3D animation to web development, all the way to graphic design and things like Excel, spreadsheets, Word documents, you name it. You'll probably find a tutorial on my channel for something that's quite interesting. Okay, I look forward to seeing you in the next DCP web tutorial.